want to read something.
Hi. I'm gonna have to take her to school, but I'll be listening. I'm trying to do that on the front end so I can be back in time for my agenda item. But my husband had an early morning meeting. I didn't realize it till this morning. So here we are. But I'll be listening the whole time. I just might not be on video while I'm driving, obviously.
Sounds good. Hey.
She has some kind of outdoor play day today. That's why we're all like sunned up. Say hello.
Sunscreen's the best.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Scott. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Good morning.
Morning.
Heather, I don't know when you guys on council and these committees ever sleep.
I'm zoomed out. That's why you got me in my workout shirt today, because I'm like, I gotta run at some point here.
Yeah, I'm surprised you have time for that.
Well, I also have a look at this one I have right here. A little friend.
Oh,
I gotta get her to school. I was just telling that to Sarah, so I'm gonna run her to school in a minute, but I'll be back before my agenda item, I think. I'm gonna listen in the whole time. No, like last night we had that meeting and then I got on for the Seville Plans Together meeting because we've just been inundated with emails about the land use map. And so I just sat through and listened to that. And like by the time that was done, it was like 8:30. I was like, oh,
It started at 3:30 or 3 o'clock.
3, yeah.
Gracious.
Heather, I was told that someone could build a 5-story building with 400 units on my single-family zoned residence.
Don't
I'm
get smart
assuming
with
that's
me right
true
now, Ben
because I read it
Collett.
on the internet.
Don't get smart with me right now, Ben.
Actually, Jason told me that. Jason left me a flyer on my door that said he was concerned about the 5-story building I was going to build right around the corner from him.
That's not true.
Get us in trouble.
Yeah, whoever is recording this, it was definitely true. Jason, Jason.
I think this is probably being live streamed right now.
Hey, Jason, we might be able to get started because we have a few people who we knew were going to be absent today.
Morning, Sarah.
Hello.
Yeah, I guess we should go ahead and get started. 1, 2, 3, 4.
We have enough?
We have 6, so
We are missing Joe Hatter and Markel and David.
mhm.
So we knew we wouldn't have them.
We knew we wouldn't have them.
If we have enough for a quorum, I guess we roll on.
Yeah, we do. So I think Al would be the only other one. So yeah, we can go ahead and get started, and I'll call the meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the April minutes. Is there a motion or questions about the minutes?
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
I get,
All right.
Second,
Any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All righty. Okay, moving on. The next item on the agenda is just a financial update. I mentioned last month that I was going to meet with the representatives from Davenport, who is our mid-cap manager, just to talk about our ESG strategy and the fossil fuel focus and climate change, and just see what their thoughts were. So we kind of talked through the portfolio, and I shared with them the strategy that we had taken with the large cap managers, where there's basically just a simple exclusion for any equity holdings that have proven or probable fossil fuel reserves. And that was kind of the most straightforward way to meet the requirement, but just wanted to make sure that they didn't have any objections to that. And so they talked it over with their portfolio manager and felt like it really wouldn't have too much of a negative impact or really affect that many holdings in the portfolio. So DAHAB is working with them to update the investment guidelines. So that will add another manager sort of under that sustainable investing strategy that we've been working on over the last year. And so I would say that that's the last major holding in the portfolio that needed to be addressed. The only other ones that are remaining are some of the smaller strategies that are in index funds, where there's not really a viable alternative to sort of customize a portfolio. And then I think that might be just about it. So we'll continue to explore those options with Greg to see, as other investments might become available. We had taken the large cap, the S&P 500 index that was with SSGA, and just sort of transitioned that laterally into a fossil fuel free portfolio with SSGA. They don't quite yet have that same strategy available in those other index funds. So we have like an international fund and a small cap fund that are indexed as well. And so we'll just keep our eye on that and keep that discussion open with DAHAB and SSGA to see, over the next year or so, if any other opportunities present themselves. So we will keep working on that. But any questions about Davenport or the ESG strategy?
I don't have any questions, but I want to commend you again, Jason. A year and a half ago, this seemed so scary to me as to how we were going to execute this, and it has really worked out well. Thank you for your leadership.
Yeah, thank you all for your
Yes,
help.
thank you.
All right, well, moving right along then, the next item is the interest credit rate for the member contribution accounts. And Lisa had sent out the code section that applies to this. And so those of you that have been around for a while, remember that each of the members in the plan now make a employee contribution. And so there's an individual account for each of those members. And each year we pay them an interest credit on the balance in their account. And so this account really only matters if somebody leaves before they're vested, or they choose to withdraw their contributions and forfeit their pension benefit at some point. And so each year on June 30th, the plan credits that account based on its balance. And we've always done a 3% credit. The city is kind of, those funds are invested with the other funds in the portfolio. We're assuming a 7.5% rate of return. Some years we get that, some years it's higher, some years it's lower. But we've always sort of made those participants whole and paid them a 3% interest credit, which we felt like was, a fair rate of return for their investment. And so we have to do that again in the May meeting. So it's sort of a annual event. But I would entertain a motion or any questions on the interest credit and how it's applied or any other thoughts. But my recommendation would be to continue the 3% interest credit for those member accounts.
This would be an annual renewal that we're doing today.
Yeah, the when we first set this up, I think 2012 was the first year that we had contributions. So when the code was written, it was put into code that the first year it would be 3%, and that's what we've always done in up markets and down markets.
If there's no opposition, I can make the motion.
All position.
All right.
Sounds good.
I move that member contribution accounts of each active member shall be credited on June 30th, 2021 with interest at a rate of 3% in accordance with the city code section 19-92G.
Second.
Second. Yep. Great. Any discussion? All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Right?
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Are you opposed or are you with? Calling in.
Yes. I'm good with it.
All right. Great. Thank you. All right. Well, we're moving right along.
Well, yeah, I thought I would get my kid to preschool and back, but I'm just going to hang on and take her a little late so we can get through this last item.
Yeah, and I guess before we jump into that, I guess I would maybe recommend that we talk about this and present it. But since 3 of the people that would be affected by this aren't here, maybe we should wait to vote on it until the next meeting. But we can definitely start the conversation.
Sure. So me to start, Jason?
Yeah, go for it.
So we've talked about term limits at lengths, and I know that this came up, I guess, did we decide it was like 2 or 3 years ago? And quite frankly, I think it just fell to the wayside. It was at a time when one of our staff was, I'm sorry, I do have a sidekick here, transitioning out to another role. I'm sorry, transitioning off of their term limits. And so it kind of got the group thinking, and now we're revisiting it. And as we look at it, there's different term lengths for both community members that we appoint, the council appoints, as well as the staff representation. And there's several of us that are ex officio. So myself as the counselor representative, that's indefinite, not to me personally, but to that role. Same with Chip and Jason and Chris, and to the HR director, right? As everybody, 5 of us. And so we, in the packet, the information that Lisa sent out, we did get a response from Allison. I asked about this shortly after our last meeting. And I think that the recommendation that we'll put forward is to get all of us, all members that are not ex officio, on a 4 2-year term configuration so that everyone could have the option to stay up to 8 years. That's in line with what is typical, as you can see in the city, what she has put in here. Allison has concluded that no person shall be appointed by the city council to any board or commission for more than 2 complete terms. For boards that have 2-year terms, no person shall be appointed for the city council for more than 4 complete terms. And so I think the goal would be for us to have both staff positions that are appointed and community that are appointed to have 4 2-year terms. We will have to look at how to stagger those. It's the preference of a council office that we start to get on more of an annual appointment cycle as we do this. And so that might mean that someone whose term expires like in the springtime might go all the way to that June time frame. We'll kind of have to take it on a case-by-case basis. And I'm happy to look at our staff with that between now and our next meeting if we want to actually vote on that. I'll tell you in a second. She wants to know how to spell something. So sorry. So I think that I would recommend, I mean, Jason and I talked about yesterday, we recommend going forward with these 4 2-year terms, looking at trying to get them on an annual up rate and then staggering them so only half of any of these appointed members would be up for renewal at any one time in the event that everyone decided they didn't want to renew and we find ourselves with several new folks that are trying to come onto the commission. I think the motivation for all this discussion is that we do feel this is a commission that needs continuity. And so there's a preference to try to maintain some continuity because of just the learning curve that it takes to get here, as well as both on the staff side as well as on the community side. So is there any questions, Jason? Did I miss anything?
I think just to add 2 more points to that, the code sort of seems to suggest that there should be 2-year terms, and our employees are on 3-year terms, which doesn't really match the other commissions in the city. And so this would be one way to sort of bring our commission in conformity with what city code says. And, you know, and
It
note
would
there's some-
extend that to 8 years, essentially.
right, and
Yeah.
and then also allowing them to serve up to 8 years, but also to say that there's no obligation that any of our representatives have to serve all 4-year terms. So, you know, the retiree is not on the hook for 8 years, the employee is not on the hook for 8 years. You would commit 2 years at a time, and obviously, you know, you are under no obligation to serve 8 years.
In the case of someone who is getting ready to maybe finish 2 3-year terms, we would go ahead and allow for them to then apply for that additional 2 years, starting whenever this is actually formally approved. We would kind of start moving forward, as long as no one has exceeded their 8 years, which in this case, I don't think you even can, that we would allow for those folks moving forward to extend, to allow them to have a total service of 8 years if they wish. Is there any questions? I see Al's wheels are turning.
Is it typical for the commission that votes on changing its term to actually be beneficiaries of that?
I think we make a recommendation to council, and then council has to approve this recommendation.
Mhm.
And in that case, yes, I think it's very typical that if any board or commission is just seeing that there needs to be an adjustment to these things, that they would make that recommendation, explain the reasoning for that recommendation, and take it forward to council for approval.
Yeah, I think another benefit would be, like right now we have, if you saw the chart from the clerk's office, we have people with terms expiring in just about every month of the year, it seems like. And so we would be able to use this opportunity to sort of, you know, standardize those terms so that they meet the schedule that council would like, so that they're not constantly reviewing these, you know, every month. So there would be a good opportunity to sort of standardize when these terms start and finish as well.
And the only exception would be like in the case of Ben, where he was filling in for someone who had since left the commission, that council will appoint to finish terms, but the terms themselves, we're trying to get on a standardized schedule, and only be dealing with those one-offs where someone has had to leave prior to their term completing.
All right.
That's pretty clear to me, Heather. I don't have any further questions.
Anybody else?
Heather, I think, and I haven't read the bylaws or the policy on this, but if permissible, and I know the city attorney's office could answer this, making sure there's a clause that the person in the position continues until the council does replace it. I've been part of these where it was very strict. Their term ended on a certain date, but for whatever reason, there wasn't a reappointment for a month or 2 or longer. And then all of a sudden you have a problem reaching quorum, that type of thing. And usually that's just answered by saying the person can fill the office until they're replaced, even though their official term has expired. Something like that.
That sounds great. And I think that more broadly speaking, when I think about that, like I know with the planning commission, when people's terms have expired and we haven't been able to fulfill that has continued, but I can ask what the standard is, but I agree.
Yeah.
We definitely want to make sure that's clear, especially given that we're going to now try to get on this annual cycle of reappointments to make sure that we have continuity.
So just so you all know, the council, I think, appoints on a quarterly basis. So they don't do it every month.
We've tried to get it to a few times a year, and we ultimately are trying to get to one main annual appointment cycle, if possible. I stopped and talked to our team about it. So it used to be very willy-nilly, and we're trying to slowly get there. But this is literally the product of what's happened in the past and us trying to kind of consolidate to that point. But it does sound like the goal is to actually get to a major June boards and commissions appointment, so that when we can then do FOIA training for all those boards and commissions new members, there's just a lot of synergies that we can do if we try to get on the same schedule with our boards and commissions. So yeah.
Okay. All right, well, that sounds good. I guess we can shoot out an email one more time before the next meeting about this and confirm everyone's on the same page, and hopefully we can vote on this in June.
Sounds good.
All right, great. Well, thank you. Is there any new business?
The rapid fire meeting, I'm all about that.
All right. Lisa and Sarah, do you have anything?
Nope.
I do not. Nope.
Okay.
This is the shortest meeting in a long time.
Right. I move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Thank you for allowing the sidekick to interrupt me today here.
All right. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
And Cullep's on the phone. He told me he had internet problems, but he's listening.
All right.
Thanks.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great
Thanks,
day.
everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.